I speak for the trees, and I'm coming to you from the Truffula Forest on my favorite day, it's Earth Day, to read to you my favorite book, the Lorax. Do you know why it's my favorite? Because it's all about me. Are you ready? Let's see. So the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. At the far end of town, where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing except in old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, the old Onceler still lives here. Ask him, he knows. You won't see the Onceler, and don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of mufford moof. And on special dark midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how that Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather's snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him away in his snoove, his secret strange hole in his groovulous glove. Then he grunts, I will call you by whisper my phone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone. Slop down slops the whisper-ma-phone to your ear, and the old Onceler whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snurgly hose, and he sounds as if he had smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the swummy swans rang out in space, one morning I came to this glorious place. And I first saw the trees, oh, those truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbaloot suits as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripulous pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I'd been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had a sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart, and I knew just what to do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop, and with great skillful skill and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft and I knitted the need. Here I come. The instant he'd finished, he heard a gazump, and he looked and he saw something pop out of that stump of the tree he'd chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. Don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. I don't think I'm very oldish or bossy. Mister, I said, with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues. And I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. I was very upset and I shouted and puffed. What's that thing that you have made out of my truffula tuft? Look, Lorax, he said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree and I am doing no harm. I'm being quite useful and this thing is a thneed, and a thneed's a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat. But it has other uses than that. Yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers for bicycle seats. So I said, sir, you are crazy with greed. There's no one on earth who's gonna buy that full need. Well, the very next minute, he proved me wrong, for just at that minute, a chap came along and he thought that thneed the Onceler had knitted was great, and he happily bought it for $3.98. And he laughed at me. You poor silly guy, you never can tell what some people will buy. I repeat, I said, I speak for the trees. I'm busy, he told me. Be quiet, if you please. He rushed across the room and in no time at all built a radio phone and he put in a quick call. He called all his brothers, his aunts, his uncles, and he said, listen here. Here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast. Take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Weehawken and a sharp right at South Stitch. And in no time at all, in the factory he built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. They were all knitting thneeds just as busy as bees to the sound of the chopping of my truffula trees. Then, oh baby, oh, how his business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So he quickly invented a super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees in one smacker. They were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before. Well, and the Lorax, I didn't show up anymore. But that next week, I knocked on his new office door and I said, I am the Lorax and I speak for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and happily lived eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round. And my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They loved living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys, I cried, and I sent them away. The Onceler felt sad as he watched them all go, but business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. He meant no harm, he most truly did not, but he had to grow bigger, and bigger he got. He biggered his factory, he biggered his roads, he biggered his wagons, and biggered the loads. Of the thneeds he shipped out, he was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. He went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and he biggered his money, which everyone needs. So then again, I came back. He was fixing some pipes, and when I came back with more gripes, I am the Lorax. I coughed and I whiffed, and I sneezed and I snuffled and I startled, I sniffed. Onceler, I cried with a crufulous croak. Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swami swans, why they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in their throat. And so, please pardon my cough, they cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog that you've smogged up here. What's more, I snapped, let me say a few words about Gluppity Glup. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making Gluppity Glup and also Schloppity Schlop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. You're glumping the pond where the humming fish hum. No more can they hum, for their gills are all glummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary. Well, then he got mad. He got really mad and he yelled at me. Now listen here, Dad, and all you do is yap yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I am telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering, turning more truffula trees into thneeds, which everyone needs. Well, at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffula tree of them all. No more trees, no more thneeds, no more work to be done. So in no time, his uncles and aunts and everyone all waved him goodbye, and they jumped in his cars and drove away under smoke-smuggered stars. Now all that was left neath the bad-smelling sky was his big empty factory, him and I. So I, the Lorax, said nothing. I just gave him a glance. I gave him a very sad, sad backward glance. And I lifted myself by the seat of my pants, and I'll never forget the look on his face when I hoisted myself and I took leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all that I left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with the one word, unless. Well, whatever that means, the Onceler couldn't guess. But that was a long, long time ago. Each day since that day, he sat there and he worried and worried away. Through the years, while his buildings had fallen apart, he worried about it with all of his heart. But now, says the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch, calls the Onceler, and he lets something fall. It's a truffula tree seed, the last one of all. You're in charge of the last truffula seed, and truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water and feed it fresh air, grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. The end. Thank you, friends. I hope you enjoyed my favorite story. And maybe I'll see you next year on my favorite day, Earth